I get this question all the time, and I wanted to make a video addressing it to help you understand how do you determine if you have trauma or not. So I get people always asking me, Hannah, I don't know if I have trauma. What am I supposed to do? And oftentimes when people are coming to me asking this question, they are asking it because they've heard other people describe symptoms of trauma and they relate to those symptoms, but they can't pinpoint what the trauma was. And I want to kind of break down why that might be happening. Now, if you've ever come across any of my videos and you hear me talking about these symptoms and you realize that these symptoms are happening for you too, then I want you to start pinning down that it might be a possibility that you experienced trauma in your life that affected your nervous system and you're living with it, but you just haven't recognized it. And that's the thing, right? Sometimes we live with something that is for so long that we start to label it as normal, even when it's not normal, right? So if you are experiencing symptoms like you constantly feel anxious and on edge, but you don't know why, you find it very difficult to maintain relationships, friendships, or if you're getting to know people for the sake of marriage, things constantly fall apart. You find yourself getting very easily depressed. And it doesn't matter if you go to therapy or if you're on medication, it's very hard to break. Or you dissociate, you disconnect, you feel like you check out when someone's talking to you or when you're listening to something. It's hard for you to pay attention for long periods of time, but you don't have an ADHD diagnosis and you're not sure where this comes from, right? Or you have chronic pain and the doctors can't figure out why this pain, where it's from, and you've been trying to get a diagnosis, but nobody's able to give you a diagnosis. If any of these sound relatable, it might be that you have underlying trauma that is stored in your body and you just didn't know. And here's the thing. We used to understand trauma a very different way than we understand it now. And this is because there was a level of ignorance we had in the past. We just didn't really truly understand how common trauma was. And by the way, the mental health field and even the medical field is still behind on this. There is still a lot of the old teaching and a lot of the old patterning that is being taught in schools to professionals. So they come out and they still have no clue whether people have trauma or not, even though they're working with people who are traumatized on a day-to-day basis. They just haven't recognized it. So we used to think trauma could only happen to someone who was coming back from war or someone who had one big, large catastrophic event. And that in order for you to be traumatized, you had to be completely just almost going into a psychotic state. But then we learned about complex trauma. And complex trauma is trauma that occurs over a long period of time. And because it happens over a long period of time, sometimes the person experiencing the trauma itself, you normalize it. When you have an example, a mother who is extremely critical and emotionally neglectful, you don't consider that traumatic. But the thing is, whether you decide to label it as traumatic or not doesn't take away from the fact that your nervous system labeled it as that. Your nervous system is what we use to determine whether something is traumatic or not. And so that's one of the biggest takeaways I want you to get from this video is that whether something is traumatic or not is objective. And we keep treating it like it's subjective. Like we want to go to other people and have them substantiate to us, hey, is this traumatic enough? Is this thing that happened to me, is it bad enough to be traumatic? And that's not how it works. Trauma is not subjective. It is objective, meaning we should be able to measure within the nervous system how much this particular experience or memory of the experience affects your nervous system. And we do that. We have measures like heart rate variability, which is different than heart rate. We have measures like we can actually measure the amount of sweat that comes out of someone's palm, by the way, to assess whether they're in fight or flight or not. We are able to track people's breathing patterns. We can track their sleep, right? And your sleep is a very big indication of your nervous system's level of dysregulation. So the point is, if you are feeling all of these symptoms all the time and you can't pinpoint it to someone, you've been to professionals or you've attempted to get a diagnosis and they can't give you a diagnosis, then understand that it is likely underlying trauma that people just weren't able to catch. I have worked with women who quite literally have been seen by therapists for years, and the therapist never pinned their issues on trauma, and within 5 minutes of me talking to them, I was able to identify that. And that's because I see it all the time. And when we were able to identify it, now we have the problem and now we have the solution. And I give this one example of a client who I actually haven't talked about the story, and I just recently learned about it, who she started experiencing panic attacks, not knowing exactly where they came from. And she never put it together until we were just having a conversation via WhatsApp. Her coaching program, she was in the coaching program I had already finished, but she just shared something with me. And she talked about how, after going through the program, alhamdulillah, her panic attacks completely resolved. And this is something that happens for a lot of my clients who have panic attacks. Their panic attacks just stop after going through the Seeking Wholeness trauma group coaching program that I run. And she was telling me that, she didn't put two and two together. She was growing up in an emotionally abusive household. And then she went to school. And during school, in middle school, so kind of her 6th, 7th, 8th grade, so she would have been maybe 11, 12, 13, she was being bullied. And she left that school. And after she left that school, the thing was gone. She was no longer being bullied. She was in a school where she was not experiencing any bullying. But at age 14, she started developing panic attacks. And it wasn't until that moment that we were able to pinpoint that her panic attack started because of the bullying. Now you're going to say, Hannah, how is that possible? And this is what makes understanding trauma tricky, is because the traumatic event, the thing that is traumatizing, can be over and you can still be traumatized. And so what had happened in that situation? When she was in the school where she was being bullied, her nervous system is constantly taking those attacks. Right? She's constantly going to fight or flight. She's constantly, having to defend herself. She's constantly afraid. And as a result of that, her nervous system has to protect her. And so it's doing that. It's focusing on protecting her, and it's putting all of her energy towards that. Your nervous system, your fight or flight system, is the same fight or flight system that triggers if you were to see a bear outside or you were about to get hit by a car. It's the same one that triggers when someone is insulting you or attacking you or belittling you. This is why emotional abuse is a very real thing. Now, she leaves that situation, and you would think, oh, alhamdulillah, she's no longer being bullied. It's fine. But her nervous system finally gets to take a break from constantly being in fight or flight. And after being in fight or flight for that long, on so many occasions, and not being able to protect her, it turns into panic attacks. So all of that sympathetic energy, right, all of that fight or flight stimulation, that fight or flight energy, is now being moved into panic attacks, because her nervous system is still in the state of, oh my God, we were getting bullied for this many years. Danger, danger, danger. Where's the danger? And now the danger is not coming, and the nervous system is still waiting for the danger. So it makes the nervous system anxious. That's what you're experiencing as that severe anxiety, that you can actually feel it in your body, right? Your heart racing, your chest tightening, your belly aching. That right there is what we call somaticization. Your body is quite literally sending signals to different muscles, your cardiac muscle, your respiratory muscles, your abdominal muscles, your intestines are muscles, by the way, they're smooth muscle. And it's sending those signals constantly. So we feel anxiety not just up here, but in here as a result of that trauma. So sometimes, you guys, all it is to help understand, did I have trauma or not, is did the thing that happened to me or happened to me over many experiences or many years, is my nervous system still reacting to it right now, even though it's over? For those who have trauma that's over, or you've been able to leave, is my nervous system still reacting to it? And if the answer is yes, if you actually understand how the nervous system responds, and if you don't, then I recommend you watch my healing trauma series on my YouTube channel. Just go to the playlist. Then you'll understand if you have trauma or not. And when you understand if you have trauma or not, then you can validate the fact that, yes, this did mess me up. This did affect me, and it's affecting the way I live. It's affecting the way I think about myself. It's affecting the way I show up in my relationships. It's affecting my health. I have a whole video, by the way, on the way that trauma makes us sick. If you want to learn the science of how important it is to do the work of healing trauma before you end up with something very serious, because many people wait until it's a point where it's very hard to undo the damage that has been done to the body. With all of that being said, to anyone here who's watching this and they're like, oh my God, Hannah, yeah, I just realized that I have trauma and I actually want to do the work to heal that trauma, you can go to the link in my description to apply for my trauma group coaching program. It's a 12-week program. I run through the entire system of how to release trauma from the body, how to rewire the nervous system so it's not in freak out mode, and how to also do this in a way that builds spiritual resilience as a Muslim. there are several testimonials that you can look if you are feeling like, oh, I want to get to know more about what this work can do has done for others and what it can do for me. And otherwise, continue to watch the YouTube channel, inshallah, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any questions that I can answer for you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.